שלך, תן לי עוד חיבוק, ספר לי עוד בדיחה. לא רוצה להיפרד ממך, בוא תהיה איתי, אני אהיה איתך. לא, אתה לא יכול ללכת, אל תלך עכשיו, תן לי עוד 5 דקות לפני שתעזוב לקרב. אתה זוכר את אמא מחייכת, זה לא קורה עכשיו, היא תישאר איתך תמיד, גם אם אתה לא שב, גם אם אתה לא שב. הלב שלי כואב, הראש שלי לא תופס, כי בלב אתה שלם, בראש אתה עוד צוחק. אתה עוד מחייך, אתה אומר שלום, שלום של בטה, שלום של טוב, לא שלום של אין עוד יום. לא, אתה לא יכול ללכת, אל תלך עכשיו, תן לי עוד 5 דקות לפני שתעזוב לקרב. אתה זוכר את אבא מחייך וזה לא קורה עכשיו, הוא יישאר איתך תמיד, גם אם אתה לא שב, גם אם אתה לא שב. כולם בוכים עכשיו, אנחנו נשאר איתך תמיד, גם אם אתה לא שב, גם אם אתה לא שב.
אחינו כל בית ישראל, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. אחינו כל בית ישראל, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצרה לרווחה, ומאפלה לאורה ומשעבוד לגאולה, השתה בגלה ובזמן קריב. המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצרה לרווחה, ומאפלה לאורה ומשעבוד לגאולה, השתה בגלה ובזמן קריב.
And you answer that question.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so the twilight's last gleaming.
And conquer we must when our cause it is just, and this be our motto: in God we trust.
I think we should sing this. Let's try this.
Kolor balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homiya ulfatei mizrach kadima in the Zion Sophia. Oh Lord, tikvateinu, atikva bar shnot alpayim, liot am hoshi be'artzeinu, Eretz Zion Yerushalayim.
One more time.
Kol balevav penima nefesh Yehudi ירושלים, להיות החופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון, ירושלים.
Merry Christmas. As a child, I was almost unbearably excited by stockings, games.
I don't know if you know Stephen Fry. He is one of the main actors in the United Kingdom. He's usually associated with comic acting. He happens to be Jewish and pretty much a self-hating Jew. That's right, pretty much anti-Zionist, pretty much self-hating. Not surprised to see him doing a Christmas thing. But I was surprised that he said it quite this way.
Chocolates, presents. To this day, the aroma of mince pies trigger me into gulping fits of sentimental ecstasy. But as I grew out of childhood...
Also, if you remember, for those of you that know Wooster and Jeeves, or Jeeves and Wooster, he played Jeeves wonderfully.
Realizing I was gay, I saw a long, lonely line of Christmases ahead of me. Exclusion, exile, and disgrace had been, and surely always would be, the fate of the homosexual. But look, in my short lifetime, well, I think of it as short, Britain has moved towards an understanding and acceptance of gay love. All right, it's not perfect, of course, but what an improvement over the grim culture in which I grew up. One truth about myself, however, that I never thought for one single second would ever be an issue about which I had any cause to worry in this country was that I'm a Jew. Yes, you heard me correctly. I am a Jew. That may surprise some people. It surprises me, really. I don't think of myself as especially Jewish. Indeed, sometimes people rather embarrassingly refer to me as quintessentially English, whatever that means. I suppose it's because I love cricket and Shakespeare and the Archers on Radio 4, and my vocal cords appear to be made of tweed. But if you take a swab of my spittle, as I did with one of those genetic services, up comes 52% Ashkenazi Jew. More than half, which was a bit of a surprise. My mother's Jewish family came over from Central Europe in the 1930s, but my father died without knowing that he was a fraction Jewish. Maybe you were a fraction Jewish too, without knowing it. Does it matter? I mean, I don't really identify as Jewish any more than I identify as English or British. Then again, I know, because I've been warned, that I've been on lists of British Jews that some ultra-right-wing newspapers and sites have published over the years. And I'm frankly damned if I'll let anti-Semites be the ones who define me and take ownership of the word Jew, injecting it with their own spiteful venom. So I accept and claim the identity with pride. I am Stephen Fry, and I am a Jew. The great Irish thinker and writer Conor Cruise O'Brien once said that anti-Semitism is a light sleeper. Well, it seems to have woken up of late. The horrendous events of October the 7th and the Israeli response seem to have stirred up this ancient hatred. It's agonizing to see all the violence and destruction that it's unfolding, and the terrible loss of life on both sides brings me an overwhelming sadness and heartache. But whatever our opinions on what is happening, there can be no excuse for the behavior of some of our citizens. Since October the 7th, there have been 50 separate reported incidents of anti-Semitism every single day in London alone, an increase of 1,350% according to the Metropolitan Police. Shop windows smashed, Stars of David and swastikas daubed on walls of Jewish properties, synagogues and cemeteries. Jewish schools have been forced to close. There is real fear stalking the Jewish neighborhoods of Britain. Jewish people here are becoming fearful of showing themselves. In Britain, in 2023, my Jewish grandparents loved Britain, believing the Jews were more welcome here than in most countries. I'm glad they aren't alive now to read newspaper stories that would have reminded them of the 1930s Europe that they left. They believed Britishness meant being fair and decent. But what can be more unfair or indecent than race hatred, whether anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or any kind? So what is my message this Christmas? The simple truth that we're all brothers and sisters. It's naive, but it's as good a message as any other.
You know how bad it had to have gotten in England and in London for this self-hating Jew to go on national television, Channel 4, and declare himself a Jew.
What? More visitors?
Greetings, Joseph and Miriam from Nazareth. The star of Bethlehem and GPS showed us the way to your door. Allow us to introduce ourselves. We are three wise men from the West.
Okay, three wise persons.
Of course. May we enter?
Love the decor. Very earthy.
Yes, so sustainable.
Oh, yes. What are these walls? Cadillac?
I'm sorry, but it's really late. I just had a baby.
Yeah, and we already had a visit from the three wise men from the East. They just, maybe it's not a good time.
With all due respect to these Eastern wise men, we're from Berkeley.
Okay. Anyway, they gave us their blessing and they told us that our newborn son will be the king of the Jews.
Jews? Jews? What do you mean Jews?
I don't see anything Jewish here.
You have to understand, Jews will only come to this land 1,948 years from now.
As a colonialist power.
Oh, I see someone's been listening this semester.
True.
What do you mean? We are Jews.
No, you're not.
So what are we?
You are Palestinians, of course.
That drip is fire.
Palace what?
Palestinians, the indigenous inhabitants of this land. In the beginning, God created the heaven, the earth, and Palestinians.
Wait, so my baby is also Palestinian?
Of course. And you don't practice Judaism, you practice Islam.
Allahu Akbar, man.
So Akbar.
What is Islam?
I'm sorry. That's a very Islamophobic question.
Actually, it makes me feel unsafe.
So, wait a minute. Our baby will be the king of the Palestinians?
Exactly. Too bad he'll be dead at a very young age because he'll be murdered by the Jews.
Oh, my God.
Excuse me, Professor. So there are Jews living here?
No. Only Palestinians.
Oh, so the Palestinians will kill Jesus?
No Palestinian would ever hurt anyone. Never. Especially not Hamas.
Wait, I don't understand.
Okay, guys, this is exactly what our next class is about, all right?
Oh.
How did the Jews kill Jesus without even existing? It's gonna be fun, all right? Don't worry about it.
It's so worth 54 grand a year in tuition.
Right?
Kidding.
Anyways, Congratulations on your definitely not Jewish baby boy.
Yay, woo. Can we go visit Santa in the North Pole?
No, North Palestine.
Oh,
North Palestine.
right.
Santa is a Palestinian too.
Santa walk bar.
Oh, very good.
Ho, ho, ho.
What the hell was that?
Jesus.
Again, I've taken you on this tour before, and we're not going to spend much time on this one. But a refresher, this was Gaza just before the war, what they referred to on the left as the world's largest outdoor prison. Just a reminder what that was like. Let's get it out. All right. World's largest outdoor prison. Here's another look. Before and now after. As Israel has had to defend herself from Hamas, trying to get those hostages back, and trying to permanently put an end to Hamas so that what happened on Shabbat Shmini Atzeret of October 7 never again happens. No justification whatsoever. They brought this on themselves. They completely brought this on themselves, and they continue to do so. They cheered every time Jews were killed. They surrounded the bodies of people that were brought back, kidnapped. This was the first luxurious resort that opened in the Gaza Strip.
كل الدنيا فيها ما بزبطش، يعني هذا المكان المخصص بيبقى أريح وعارف مين معك، فبتحس بخصوصية وكويس يعني بالنسبة لغزة لأول مرة.
The world's largest open-air prison.
البلو بيتش، يعني زي ما ناخذ الاطفال يغيروا جو من الضغط الحياه الموجود، يعني لانه فيش عندنا متنزهات، نجربوا ونشوف كيف الوضع فيه.
This is the Associated Press. So it was the AP bringing out a news item. As you saw, they're talking to the Arabs in Arabic, just putting out the word that there's a luxury hotel up in Gaza.
The recent inauguration of this five-star palace is one of the examples that some are betting on a brighter future for Gaza.
Again, French
A group
TV.
of Palestinian investors spent more than 10 years and $50 million building this hotel. Marble floors leading to a fine dining experience and a state-of-the-art gym are just some of the amenities on offer. Nothing is missing except for guests. There's just 10 of them today, foreigners and a few wealthy locals who don't want to be filmed. In Gaza, very few can afford a meal, let alone a room here. This suite goes for $240 a night. It boasts a view on the Mediterranean and on an Al-Qassam Brigade's training ground next to a refugee camp.
Did you get that last little thing our nice French person threw in there? It overlooks this beautiful hotel, overlooks an Al-Qassam. Al-Qassam is Hamas. That's the fighting arm of Hamas. Hamas is actually a political movement that got elected to dominate Gaza. And their fighting arm is Al-Qassam. So matter-of-factly, our French reporter in this glowing report mentions that our gorgeous hotel overlooks the Mediterranean, which is why so many people say that Gaza could have been an incredible tourist. It could have been a paradise. Instead, it overlooks Al-Qassam training camp.
It boasts a view on the Mediterranean and on an Al-Qassam Brigade's training ground next to a refugee camp.
Lovely.
Further downtown, Mazaj, or Whim in Arabic, is another haven of comfort in the Palestinian enclave. The cuisine here is mostly Mediterranean, but it's not about luxury, according to one of the restaurant's managers.
Mazaj is not that expensive. You know, this is cost about 24 shekel. It's not too high. And
24 shekels, about $7.
And takeaway, it's cost about 20 shekel. It's not too high.
That's about 4 euros. The owner says his staff struggles to keep quality high and prices low, despite the Israeli siege, which makes certain products difficult to come by. A situation which some of these customers say they're trying to forget about by coming here.
It's nice for us to find somewhere where we can just to relieve and to soothe ourselves from the hard situation in Gaza.
This Palestinian economist is very skeptical about the emergence of these upper-class businesses.
And so you've got, on the one hand, that, and I want to share with you, a particular slot here. Here we go. Let's get that off the screen. Sorry for these little bars that Zoom throws in. And this is that hotel. Founded on TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor, just this morning, travel notice. It is currently recommended to avoid all non-essential travel to this area due to armed conflict and serious safety risks. The Blue Beach Resort, #1 of one resort in Gaza City, on Al Rashid Street, Gaza City, in the Palestinian territories, so to speak. And this is a full view, and it comes with pictures. Blue Beach Resort overlooks the Mediterranean Sea from the west, etc., etc. Some reviews. 5-star, amazing place. Really nice staff. Place is really comfy. Palestinians are really welcoming. We really enjoyed our time there. We just hope for the Palestinian people to be able to have their own country, so traveling to the area gets easier. That's it. May 2023. I don't know whether you recognize this family. This is a hostage family, the Bibas family, B-I-B-A-S, with that famous little red-haired boy. And somehow they got this through TripAdvisor, and they wrote it in a way, they gave it, in order to prevent TripAdvisor from taking it off, they gave it 2 stars instead of 1 star. This is the family, the famous picture of the family. We Bibas stayed there from the 7th of October for a week. We were given the corner room in the underground tunnel, the one in the middle. A very nice beach and pool experience. Activities in this hotel is great. Nice, clean, big pool, very welcoming, clear beach water. The staff was very nice, helpful, and welcoming. The view from our room's balcony was charming. I love this place. We stayed 4 days, 3 nights there. I would visit again for sure. I wish if the room interior decor was better. The only problem here is the food. Some choices were fine, others were bad. The lemon mint fresh drink at the pool was wow. On the pictures, oh, the pictures. Don't forget the pictures. Hackton got this on. That's the hotel.
Omar Shaban says that this brand new shopping mall, for instance, does not reflect the reality of most Gazans.
Life is good in Gaza for...
So what happened to Gaza? How did this beautiful paradise turn into what it is? As many of you know by now, I'm not a big fan of the crocodile tears for so-called innocent Gaza civilians. To me, the civilians of Gaza basically are as guilty as the Hamas, because Hamas are their representatives. They elected, first of all, they elected Hamas in 2006. As recent as a month ago, weeks ago, the polling still shows that Hamas has more than 80% support from the people. When Hamas kills Jews and brought the bodies back, regular civilians lined up, beat the dead bodies. Many of us saw that in the back of pickup trucks. They cheered them on. The Gaza civilians are, by and large, every bit as guilty. You don't hear voices speaking out for peace and freedom. And there was no peace and freedom. In fact, Abu Mazen, the Mahmoud Abbas, the guy who runs the so-called Palestine Authority and the so-called West Bank and Judea Samaria, he was elected 2005 for a 4-year term. He's now in the 19th year of his 4-year term, and he refuses to have elections. And the reason he has refused to have elections for the last 15 years is that he knows any elections will see a landslide victory for Hamas. So when you see that lovely environment that Gaza was, anything but an open-air prison, you begin to understand that they brought this on themselves. These are the people of Gaza. This is what they've done with $8 billion in aid from the United States and Europe, all over the world. Instead of building houses and building just a paradise, they poured their money into creating factories to build weapons and underground tunnels.
אנחנו נשארים פה כאחור, נכנסנו דרכו, מזהים פה נשק קלט, מחסניות רימונים, RPG, ממשיכים עוד להתקדם לאט, ומזהים פה במרשם שוואז, אנחנו עוזרים פה על השוואז, הדבר הזה מוביל הלאה לעוד כמה רימונים, וסט עם מחסניות מלאות כבדות בכדורים, ופה בסמטה אפשר לראות את המטען. זה המטען, הוא בתוך השקית, הוא מופנה כלפינו. הנה הוא קורא את השוואב. מצוין.
שאחד הכלים אולי עלה על מטען.
שאני רוצה להתחיל לבצע עליהם אחת מתחת ירי. אם הכל רגוע רק במטען.
הופ, ירום 2, 3, מעולה, גר. לך איתם. אלפא. כניסה. מעולה.
רגע ברחב, תראה אם יש טנק צמוד עליך?
יש פה.
הוא מכוון פה, הוא בטוח, הוא חושב שזה נונטט. עצור. דבר. הוא שיגר רגע, שיגרתי.
מעולה, עוד שנייה מכאן.
זה ממש בפינה.
הנה, אנחנו מחפשים פה אנשים.
הנה, בורחים.
יופי.
רגע, קח את האחורים.
אני לא יודע איפה זה.
שלוש, גר.
הם התפצלו
מיד,
לשתי חויות.
So Israel's doing what Israel has to do. And they're taking out particular buildings. They're pinpointing the buildings they're going after. They don't necessarily flatten the entire neighborhood. They flatten the buildings they're going after. And they're going after buildings that they know have weapons. How do they know they have weapons? Because they have ground forces who can either spot snipers or spot people running into buildings, and then they radio up to the Air Force the location of buildings that have to be taken down. And they're taking down buildings where terrorists are hiding, and they've killed, when you read about and when I bring to your attention the terrorists that they've killed, and they've killed somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 terrorists at least now. Many of them are in these buildings and tunnels that they're taking out. They know exactly what they're doing. They're targeting carefully rather than just strafing and taking down a whole block, which they as easily could be doing as when they're taking down a single building. When the anti-Israel world speaks about indiscriminate bombing, it is so carefully targeted. It's so discriminate, so to speak. They know exactly what they're going for. And that's why, although the anti-Israel community speaks about genocide and that it's just, as I said, indiscriminate, they cannot point to incidents where, look, what a scandal that Israel bombed this or Israel bombed that. They are being so careful. The one big international outcry was when that hospital got bombed, Shifa Hospital. So we heard an international outcry over a specific incident. And it turned out that incident was actually Hamas people or Islamic Jihad people within Gaza intending to shoot a rocket into Israel, and the rocket malfunctioned, and instead of taking a long ride up to Israel, ended up on a short distance and blowing up the backyard of the hospital. Actually did not hit the hospital. That was a lie itself, that the hospital was bombed. It was the hospital's parking lot adjacent, and it was Arabs. And it just so happened, fortunately, that Israeli intelligence had audio recordings of Arabs talking to each other. The bombing, basically admitting that they did. Here they go after a tunnel, and the tunnel just snakes through, because the tunnel itself has so many firearms and weapons and explosives inside the tunnel that the bombing of the tunnel sets off bomb upon bomb upon bomb. And that's what all that bombing is. When you hear about...
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking...
This is very gripping. This is a soldier trying to save another IDF Tzahal soldier who's been wounded and is bleeding profusely. And so he's trying to save him under fire. He's trying to save an injured person under fire. So he's running to the injured soldier, of course, with his rifle ready. Being told it's the left leg. He's in pain in the left leg. and they're in the process of saving his life, protecting his artery. You know, they're going to have to tie a tourniquet.
דרמטיים מקסדה של לוחם שמציל את חיי חברו באמצעות חוסם עורקים לאחר שרגלו נפצעה קשה.
His leg was very badly wounded. You can see his face kind of in the middle of the screen now. And they're going for the left leg and they're going to tie a tourniquet under fire.
הכוח נתקל וסופג ירי כבד, מחפה ומטפל בפצועים תוך כדי משיב אש.
He's dealing with this guy's injury while he's being fired on.
אני על הפצע?
ואז, תוך כדי ירי כבד, מעלים את הפצוע לאלונקה ורצים איתו למקום בטוח יותר מלב...
And now under fire, they raise up the injured guy on like a stretcher to get him out there.
תופת.
שלוש, צד שני מוכן. קורה כזה. זהות פה.
Careful here.
תרימו.
Out of the way.
איפה הנשק שלך?
הפצוע מגיע למקום בטוח, אך הנשק שלו נשאר מאחור.
They've now gotten him to a safe place, but his rifle, his weapon, is still left behind, and you can't leave it behind because the Arabs might come and get it.
הלוחם הגיבור לא מוותר וחוזר.
So now this heroic soldier is not giving up on that weapon, but going back to get it.
איפה הנשק שלו?
Where's his rifle?
היי, חפו עלינו.
Cover me, cover us.
הנשק נמצא, הפצוע מטופל ומפונה לבית החולים.
They find the rifle. Meanwhile, the wounded soldier is brought to a hospital.
וכך נראית גבורה הירואית ועוד התקלות קשה של כוחותינו ברצועה.
And this is an example of the heroic efforts of Sahal within the Gaza Strip. Here, another terror tunnel is taken out. And that's why there's so much rubble. What they refer to as indiscriminate bombing, they're going for tunnels. Those tunnels are deathly. That's where the Hamas terrorists basically live, hide out, store their weapons, and from there they go and they murder Jews.
לוחם אביחי שושן, הוא יצא אתמול בלילה, מאוד פעילות.
This is an extraordinary incident that happened recently. A Chayal, a soldier in Sahel, who's now fighting in Gaza, 32 years ago, 1991, his father was fighting in Gaza. That's how long these wars have been going on. His father was fighting back in 1991 and was killed in battle. And in virtually the same location 32 years later, on the day of the father's yahrzeit, this son who now has grown up and is in the army and is assigned at that spot, and Hamas is based essentially in the spot where his father was killed 32 years ago. He's about to blow up that area 32 years later and kill Hamas terrorists on the yahrzeit of his father.
ח'אן יונס, ודווקא במקום בו אביו נפל לפני 32 שנה, הוא חזר.
It's in Khan Yunis, one of the so-called Palestinian camps in Khan Yunis. Let's get that off the screen.
חזר עכשיו בצל המלחמה, והוא יקדיש לאביו את הרגע הבא. בואו נראה.
We're about to destroy the house of a Hamas terrorist. And this is this guy on Twitter. I want to say something small. Today, the 25th, on Shabbat, is a day that is particularly important to me. 32 years ago, and the truth is, it wasn't far from here, at a particular location where a cursed terrorist ambushed my father as he was on the way, and they shot him and they killed him. Truth is that my father and I both are proud members of the of Golan. I have to say that I am particularly proud to be here on this day with the Givati battalion to pay back 1,000 times what was done, and to bring honor to our people. Countdown.
וואי, האמת שזה מאוד מאוד ריגש אותי לראות את זה. אתמול שושן היה פה הרבה באולפנים. הוא הקים את ארגון האמת שלי, הוא לוחם ותיק גם בהסברה הישראלית, ויש לו סיפור שאי אפשר להישאר אדיש אליו, זה באמת...
אנחנו לא מפחדים.
We're not afraid.
עם ישראל פה חזקים.
Jewish people here are strong.
לא פוחדים מאף אחד.
We're not afraid of anyone.
רק מהשם השם אחד.
Only of God, the one God.
עם ישראל בארץ ישראל.
The nation of Israel and the land of Israel.
מאוחדים, כולם אוהבים.
Are united now. Everyone loves each other.
כולנו ביחד.
We are together.
לא נראה, לא נפחד, כי כולנו עם אחד.
We will not be afraid. We do not fear because we are one nation.
ויש לנו צבא גדול.
And we have a big, strong army, and we have God.
את השם הכל יכול.
With God, anything is possible.
אנחנו לא מפחדים. עם ישראל פה חזקים. לא פוחדים מאף אחד. רק מהשם השם אחד. מי שחושב לפגוע ביהודים, יש לו טעות, אנחנו חזקים. ולא ניתן לאף אחד. השם איתנו, השם אחד. השם ישמור את החיילים, מוסרים את הנפש בשבילנו, ישמור על המתנחלים, לשמור על כל היהודים, הצדיקים לומדים תורה, שומרים עלינו מכל רע, ולנו נשאר להיות ביחד, באהבה אחת גדולה. לא נראה, לא נפחד, כי כולנו עם אחד, ויש לנו צבא גדול, ואת השם הכל יכול. והעיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל. אנחנו לא מפחדים, עם ישראל פה חזקים, לא פוחדים מאף אחד, רק מהשם השם אחד. מי שחושב לפגוע ביהודים, יש לו טעות, אנחנו חזקים, ולא ניתן לאף אחד. השם איתנו, השם אחד.
And these are soldiers chanting the same chant, Baha'ikar, and the essence is Lo L'fachad Klal, not to be afraid at all.
לא שומעים! לא לפחד כלל.
This is a crazy thing that happened. The day of the attack on October 7, Arabs were throwing a grenade into an apartment on the kibbutz, and the guy inside kept throwing the grenade back out. That's, well, you see. You know the guys with the green bandana, and they're trying to get in there, trying to kill a family. These are Hamas. And he just threw the grenade. Grenade came flying out. Here goes another grenade. Pulls the pin. He threw it out. Threw it back out. Threw it back out. You don't see this even in the movies. You can see they're running low on grenades. Threw that one out. This was huge news last week. The number 2 in Hamas, after Sinwar. There's Yahya Sinwar, and then this guy who's like number 2, and he was in Beirut. The understanding is that Israel might kill people in Gaza, but they're not going to be attacking in Beirut proper. Maybe the Hezbollah, in the area where Hezbollah is attacking from in Lebanon, but they're not expecting Israel to be attacking in regular, decent sections of Beirut. So this number 2 guy, Salah Arouri, was out there negotiating, and it's understood he's trying to coordinate between Hamas and Hezbollah, and Israel blew him up, basically, to explode him.
رسالتنا للعدو لن تنجح ولن يمر مشروع الضم وستخسر.
صوتهم مش طيارة حرب، مسيرات صوتهم خفيف. مسيرة طلعت صاروخين محمليتهم، رجعت نزلت ورا الصاروخين، فجرت حالها بالبناية.
צה"ל נמצא במוכנות גבוהה מאוד, בכל הזירות. בהגנה ובהתקפה, אנחנו במוכנות גבוהה לכל תרחיש. הדבר החשוב ביותר לומר הערב, זה שאנחנו ממוקדים ונשארנו ממוקדים בלחימה בחמאס.
A senior advisor in Iran's Revolutionary Guards has been killed in an Israeli airstrike on Syria. Iranian state TV interrupted its regular news broadcast to announce the death of Sayed Razi Mazavi, describing him as one of the Guards' oldest advisors in Syria. He is seen here with Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Guards' elite Quds force, who was killed in a US drone attack in Iraq in 2020. Iranian officials have vowed revenge for his death, with the president saying it showed weakness on the part of Israel. There was no immediate comment from Israel's military. Israel has for years carried out attacks against what it describes as Iran-linked targets in Syria. Tehran's influence has grown in the country since it backed Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in the civil war that erupted in 2011.
Now to the killing of a top leader of Hamas today in Beirut, sparking new concerns about a wider conflict. Josh Lederman is in Israel with the latest.
Tonight, the fiery aftermath of an apparent assassination. A senior Hamas leader killed in what Hamas says was an Israeli drone strike on a Hamas office in Beirut. Salah al-Arouri was a deputy head of Hamas on a U.S. wanted list, accused of involvement in multiple terror attacks. Hamas saying 7 people were killed in the strike, including 2 commanders. Israel won't say whether it was responsible, but only one country is at war with Hamas.
Israel is at war. Whoever did this has a gripe with Hamas.
Israel's military has vowed to hunt down Hamas leaders worldwide, saying they're living on borrowed time following the October 7th Hamas terror attacks that killed 1,200 people. Tonight, as protests erupt in the West Bank, Israel is bracing for potentially massive retaliation, not just from Hamas, but from Hezbollah, another...
Do you notice that he said that the protests erupted in, quote, the West Bank? That's the place where people who talk about a two-state solution suggest that Israel should give up territory in Judea, Samaria, and allow these people to have their own country. If they had their own country, they would be armed the way Gaza is, building tunnels and shooting into Israel from a third front. Not only the north with Hezbollah and Lebanon and the south with Hamas and Gaza, but they would have Fatah and other Hamas in Judea, Samaria, and what they call the West Bank. That's why they're never going to be given a country. There will never be a so-called two-state solution. For those of you that attended my 10-part series, you know that the two-state solution took place back in 1922 when the British essentially tore up Palestine, the Palestine Mandate, giving 78% everything east of the Jordan River to the Arabs, country of Jordan, and leaving the Jews with everything west of the Jordan River. And there should not even be a Palestine Authority. From the river to the sea, all of Israel should be free.
Another Iranian-backed group allied with Hamas that's also targeted Israel. The new Israeli foreign minister today declaring we're in the midst of World War III against Iran and radical Islam. The assassination raising the stakes for Israel's cabinet, which postponed a meeting to discuss Israel's new plan for Gaza after the war. An Israeli official telling NBC News the plan involves local Gazan clans or tribes handling civilian governance, like doling out aid, while Israel controls security indefinitely. This as Israel signals the war is entering a new phase, with thousands of Israeli troops on their way out of Gaza, even as Prime Minister Netanyahu says the war will last many more months. Palestinian groups are calling for more protests tomorrow over the assassination, including in Jerusalem and the occupied West Bank.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news. And
NBC refers to it as the occupied West Bank. It actually is liberated Judea, Samaria. And as much as everybody in the American news media continued to do the same as the rest of the world and refer to the land of Eretz Israel as occupied, we have to remember, because it was that faith and that certainty that when they used to refer to occupied Jerusalem and occupied East Jerusalem, it was the faith that that land belongs to us that resulted ultimately in Israel declaring a united city, a united capital, and waiting for the right president to come in who was willing to declare it as an American recognition as well. You stick to your guns, and in time, God brings salvation from the craziest sources imaginable, but he brings salvation.
And top stories on the NBC.
Salah al-Arouri was one of Hamas's top officials. He was meeting other leaders from the group in the Beirut suburb of Dahia when
This report is from Al Jazeera. That's the Arab English language news media.
huge explosion destroyed the building. He'd been a target of Israel and its allies for years. And though Israel did not officially take credit for the assassination, it was the latest in a long line of targeted killings of Hamas leaders. Al-Arouri is believed to have been one of the founders of Hamas's armed wing, the Qassam Brigades. The US State Department had a $5 million bounty on his head since at least 2015. As Hamas's second in command, he was known to be a top Israeli target. Another person sure to be on Israel's most wanted list is this man, He's Yahya Sinwar, leader of Hamas in Gaza, and the person Israel holds most responsible for the attacks on October 7th. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calls Sinwar a dead man walking. Israel has been killing Hamas figures for decades. The group's founders, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin and Abdulaziz al-Rantisi, were assassinated in 2004. Dozens of other Hamas commanders and leaders have met similar fates over the years, part of a wider campaign against several Palestinian groups.
There's a sense that they can kind of weaken the Palestinians and eliminate their leaders and keep them kind of defeated and divided. But, you know, we've seen that
Did you catch this guy's a law professor in Colorado? This guy's a professor. Oy. The universities. Again, here in Judea, Samaria, they protest the killing of Arouri. And that's who even the Biden administration, when Biden and Blinken talk about a two-state solution, they're basically saying Israel should give these people in Judea, Samaria, the so-called West Bank, their own country.
Ben & Jerry's announced its decision to stop selling ice cream.
While that's going on there, we've got Jews here in America, and this was done about a year and a half ago, but just seemed to me right now, because North Carolina just became the latest state that's selling out. They're selling all, they're banning holding any Ben & Jerry's or any holdings in Unilever. The owners of Ben & Jerry's just came out, and so seemed a good lead-in to remind us of who these two self-hating Jews are. And it was just a fascinating brief interview to get to see really these two Jews, self-haters, that kind of George Soros kind of mindset. May they all be cursed.
Cream in Israeli-occupied Palestinian territories. Were you surprised by the backlash that came after that?
No, I wasn't surprised. And yet when it happens, it's still painful.
You have some loyal customers who think that the move is anti-Semitic. You're both Jewish men. How did it feel personally to be wrapped up in accusations of being anti-Semitic?
Totally fine. You know,
for some reason, I think Jerry's answer is going to be different.
It's absurd. I mean, no. I mean, what? I'm anti-Jewish? I mean, I'm a Jew. Well, my family is Jewish. My friends are Jewish. You know, I mean,
I understand people being upset. It's a very emotional issue for a lot of people, and I totally understand it. It's a very painful issue for a lot of people.
Can you help me understand why this decision came now? This conflict has been going on for years.
We're always in favor of a two-state solution. The policy of the Israeli government has been to endorse these settlements in the occupied territories that keep on making it harder and harder to actually have a two-state solution.
In what way do you both feel that, you know, withholding money or taking money from somewhere is a way to hold someone accountable?
Well, in terms of Israel, I don't view it as withholding money. It's just saying we don't want our ice cream sold in the occupied territories.
Right. But that affects the economy to an extent.
Not much. You know, I mean, it's a drop in the bucket.
So then is that really a big stand?
It's not a financial stance, it's a policy stance.
Ben & Jerry's publicly supported Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, but over the years, the company continues to sell more ice cream and thrive.
But there's also new reporting that shows that states are taking financial action. Arizona is divesting over $140 million in Unilever stock. New Jersey, $180 million. Do you care about that?
I do care because I think it's largely based on misinformation.
What do you mean?
I think Ben & Jerry's and Unilever are being characterized as boycotting Israel, which is not the case at all. It's not boycotting Israel in any way.
If you disagree with the Israeli government policy, why not just stop sales completely?
Well, I disagree with the U.S. policy. We couldn't stop selling in the U.S. I think it's fine to be involved with a country, to be a citizen of a country, and to protest some of the country's actions. And that's essentially what we're doing in terms of Israel. We hugely support Israel's right to exist, but we are against a particular policy.
You guys are big proponents of voting rights. Why do you still sell ice cream in Georgia? Texas, abortion bans. Why are you still selling there?
I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question. I don't know what that would accomplish. We're working on those issues of voting rights and I don't know. I think you ask a really good question, and I think I'd have to sit down and think about it for a bit.
Every woman who lives in Texas now is going to have an impossible time getting an abortion. If you're a woman who lives in Texas, you have now been stripped of those rights because of the Texas government.
By that reasoning, we should not sell any ice cream anywhere. I've got issues with what's being done in most every state and most every country.
I think one thing that's different is that what Israel is doing is considered illegal by international law. And so I think that's a consideration.
North Carolina's Treasury today announcing the state can no longer do business with ice cream company Ben & Jerry's. State Treasurer Dale Falwell says it's because of their boycott of Israel. North Carolina is now divesting $40 million in assets of Unilever, that's the parent company of Ben & Jerry's. It has also told local governments and state agencies that they're prohibited from contracting with either company.
And tonight, going kosher for a cause.
Novellis, that's on May.
So this is the other side. We have friends. We have friends. Don't think it's only the bad guys. North Carolina are good. And this is Missouri. St. Charles Restaurant of Missouri. For one day, a totally very, very prominent and quality, high class restaurant. They decided to go kosher for one day just so that Jews who are kosher would be able to experience what that restaurant is.
Main Street in St. Charles sold out 2 dinners for a fundraiser for Israel. Our Laura Barczewski shows us what went into putting on this special event.
Alrighty, everyone, I've got the salmon. Co-owner of Novellis restaurant, Brett Affolter, says he and his dad felt called to help families in Israel after watching the terrible Hamas attacks that started just weeks ago.
He's had quite a few friends that were from the Jewish faith that have done a lot to really help him in his life. And he thought, how can I do something?
So for one special night, Novellis staff flipped their menu and their kitchen upside down to serve a kosher dinner to benefit Israel.
People are really hurting, and us coming together, besides for sending a message of support, of love, of care, we are also feeding people in Israel, and we're letting them know that they're not alone.
Ahead of this special event, Novellis actually had to shut down for 2 days to prepare their kitchen so they could serve kosher foods for 2 entire dinners.
When it comes to ingredients, you have the meat, The meat is from specific animals that are kosher, and then how it's prepared has to be kosher.
Affolter says both dinners sold out in 2 hours.
It gives me goosebumps to realize how many people are out there that don't know how to help, but really want to help. It's a community effort.
Rabbi Chaim Landa says the love that started at the dinner table in St. Charles is already making its way across the ocean to Israel.
And there's a lot of hate, and there's a lot of darkness out there, but we have the power to create change, positive change, and a little bit of light expels a lot of darkness.
Reporting in St. Charles, Laura Barcheski, 5 on your side.
The restaurant owners matched all of the donations made tonight, up to $50,000, to help feed displaced Israeli families.
Non-stop. Jewish people are not so large.
This is another TV station, also in the greater area.
And anti-Semitism is a reality. It's a reality I think the world is beginning to see, what a reality it is. A little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness.
Fighting the darkness of war with the light of charity.
And right now in St. Charles, people, both Jewish and non-Jewish, are gathering for a kosher meal tonight. All the money going to families affected by the ongoing war on the other side of the globe.
Still, organizers are getting pushback for this, and only First Alert 4's David Amelati shares tonight's Meal for a Cause.
The main thing was cleaning this oven.
For Joe Ansman's staff at Novellus to serve a kosher meal,
It had to be back down to the metal.
you must avoid a transfer of taste from previously prepared meals.
They're going to blowtorch the aluminum so to make sure there's no food particles left on here.
And what can't be torched will be cleaned with boiling water and then blessed by a rabbi.
It's their belief, and we're going to follow it.
A promise.
It's not blessed by a rabbi. That's a myth. Everything else is absolutely correct. But a rabbi does not bless the food, and a rabbi does not bless the oven. The oven should live and be well, but...
To show St. Charles stands with the Jewish community and Israel, a message that echoes just a few blocks north inside the Foundry Arts Center.
And when you give opportunity for the expression of these stories, it's an entirely different story. It's an uplifting one. It's an inspiring one.
This sprawling exhibit honors dozens of the 6,000 plus Jewish people who call St. Charles County home.
These are tefillin. Tefillin are leather boxes.
It opened October 6th, the day before Hamas attacked Israel.
It's real. It's raw. Everyone knows someone. And everyone's worried. Everyone's concerned. People are hurting.
Rabbi Landa was supposed to be in Israel the day of the attacks for his nephew's bar mitzvah. So when he got the call, a local place wanted to go kosher in solidarity, he was reminded of the warmth of his St. Charles family.
For a business to go kosher for a single day, for a single night, is huge. And the message that sends to the Jewish people here in St. Charles and in the region is we appreciate you, we love you, and we stand with you. If we sit by and let all these things just kind of happen before our eyes, then who are we? What are we doing? And I think that seeing people rally around something positive, something good, is the most heartwarming and the most effective way of fighting the darkness.
And as you can see, everyone is enjoying themselves here. Those who are Jewish and those who are not. This place is packed. And it's interesting how this act of kindness has been met with a little bit of pushback. I talked with the owner earlier today. He has gotten some threats, calls, emails, texts for hosting this event. And he says that's all the more reason to have this event. In fact, he actually heard from a woman from Israel 2 days ago, called at 3 in the morning, found out about this event, and wanted to donate. And he goes, ma'am, no, I'm fundraising for you. But it really just speaks to the magnitude that this generosity is reaching. It's already making its way over to Israel. Now, of course, if you aren't able to be here tonight, the place is packed. We have the link for you to donate online right now inside this story on the KMOV News app. Live in St. Charles, David Amelati, First Alert 4.
Yeah, big crowd. And
so I kind of figured, you know what, with your permission, I'd like to take 3 minutes. I am, after all, an Orthodox rabbi, and this is a shul program. And let me just show you something about how meat is koshered. The meat's got to come from acceptable animal. That is to say, there are certain animals that are not acceptable, and you know this. It's got to chew its cud and have the split hooves. And then once you've got the right animal, it's got to be slaughtered in accordance with kosher slaughter law, shchita. There are 5 main things that we learned on the way to getting smicha, getting ordained as rabbis. And when the meat is, and then they've got to check the lungs. It's another story to make sure there are no sirchot, no kind of particular growths that might indicate that the lungs had been perforated earlier. Now that the meat is deemed to be kosher, it's got to be menukar. There's got to be nikur. They've got to devein it to take out the git hanasha, the sciatic nerve. That goes back to the book of Bereshit, Genesis, and the night that Jacob wrestled with an angel all night. And he was injured in the thigh. And ever since then, we do not eat the sciatic nerve. And that's why you basically find that the various meat cuts that are from the bottom half of the animal, the hind cuts, you normally can't get because they can't be deveined properly. So anyway, here's a quick look.
My name is Levi Shershkowitz. I'm the mashgiach here in the supermarket. I take care of primarily the meat section, but I also go around and make sure everything else is taken care of properly, according to the high standards that the Vat of Queens requires. We get the delivery directly from the place that slaughters it, that shechs it. I check every piece of meat, make sure it passes the standards. If it passes those standards, then we will start to work on it. We begin the process of nikur, which is removing these veins. It entails breaking down the meat. In order that we should get to these veins, in Hebrew it's called hidin, the veins that have dam, that have blood. We're not allowed to eat any blood. After taking out the veins, then we can soak the meat because there's blood inside the meat besides the veins that we removed that we cannot eat either. So in order to allow us to eat this meat, we have to soak it for half an hour. It goes into the tanks, clean tanks with water, and it'll be completely submerged. There shouldn't be any traces of blood on the meat. After it sits in the tank for 1/2 hour, then it gets removed. If there's still any blood, it gets rinsed, washed down, wiped away. Malicha, which is salting the meat. In order to remove the blood, we have to salt it. It has to be salted completely all over. Special salt that's used is called kosher salt, which is an extra coarse flake, which is flat, which will stay on the meat. If it's too thin, it will dissolve right away. If it's too thick, it will bounce off. It stays in the salt for 1 hour and has to be separate, of course, from the kosher-made meat that we have in the refrigerator from before, because this is not yet kosher. Then after an hour's passed that it's been in the salt, then it gets rinsed down very well with a power wash. And then we put in a tank with clean water. It gets submerged in there, taken out twice, dunked and rinsed twice. Another rinse, then we're ready to sell it as glatt kosher, fresh meat.
And now you know what they do.
This is one of the toughest times facing Israelis in decades. Still, they have a knack for pulling together during a crisis. This is the Satya restaurant in Jerusalem. It's closed for business now due to the war in Israel, but the owner and volunteers are making a lot of amazing food for a very good cause.
We organize about bringing a lot of food, and we cook, like
all week and send a lot of hundred of plate to family that came from, like near Gaza, to soldiers.
Owner Ilan Garusi and his staff have been preparing hundreds of meals a day for soldiers and those who fled from around the Gaza border.
We just cook. During the evening, we make preparation, and now in the morning we cook a lot of stuff, like pasta bolognese, kube, meatballs, and whatever we get, and we just cook, and after that we send all, like in the area of 12, 1 o'clock, everything is prepared, and we just send it.
The food is packed in cartons, picked up and transported to those in need. Garusi said he's providing the food free of charge while his staff volunteers their time.
Thanks for all our customers that during all those years that they came here to Satya and ate and drink, this money also came from you because now we spend this money also.
Garusi's 3 sons currently serve as combat soldiers. He says while the army may provide snacks there, the soldiers need a warm meal. He says his restaurant is just one of many helping out in these tough times.
This is the most beautiful hours of the Israeli citizen. This is our power, and we go this low. So from here, we just have to climb up, and it will be. I think this is the power of the people in Israel. We fight, and I think we'll succeed. From this point, we climb to a higher level.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
This is the 92nd day in the Hamas-Israel war, and I'm Yair Pinto, reporting to you from the Gaza Strip. Gaza is a huge amusement park for terrorists, and for months now, every morning when we go out to fight in Gaza, I ask myself, what will I see today? How will Hamas surprise me? And yet, every day I am shocked, because how is it possible to take the lives we received from God and simply turn it into a hell on earth? How can you dedicate the gift of life to hatred? How can someone devote his life and the life of his children to a murderous Islamic ideology? Such a belief creates a dark world like Hamas created, a world without a future, without hope, without love, a world I would not wish on anyone. In Gaza, even the hotels have terror tunnels, a real concept of vacation, huh? In the northern part of the Gaza Strip, near the seashore, the combat team of the 14th Brigade raided the Blue Beach Hotel, and alongside the fighters of the Alam unit.
That is the hotel that earlier in this program we took a look at.
Were dozens of Hamas terrorists that barricaded themselves inside the hotel and fired several anti-tank missiles at the IDF forces, who returned fire. The forces encountered the terrorists and eliminated some of them. During the raid, a terrorist infrastructure of the Hamas organization was found, which included several shafts leading to tunnels, and inside them were living rooms of Hamas terrorists. They used the hotels for shelter, from which they waged war and planned attacks above and below the ground. Literally, 5-star luxury terror conditions. Many weapons were found in the underground infrastructure under the hotel, including AK-47s, a variety of explosives, and drones. Fighters of the 414th Battalion were operating in the El Burij camp. During the operation, an armed terrorist squad tried to attack a tank, and the fighters began chasing the squad in a residential urban area. A drone of the force followed the squad, and after certain identification of the terrorists, the fighters directed an Air Force fighter jet, which attacked the building where the squad was entrenched in, and eliminated the terrorists. In the Khan Yunis area, the fighters of Battle Team 4 located a number of launch positions from which launches were made towards Israeli territory. The fighters destroyed the launching positions, and during several clashes in the area, they neutralized dozens of terrorists. In the Towers neighborhood, in the center of the Gaza Strip, an operation by the 646th Combat Team was completed this week. The neighborhood consisted of tall buildings that dominate the area and is used as a terrorist infrastructure for the terror organization Hamas. The buildings in the neighborhood were used as anti-tank and anti-aircraft firing positions on our forces, and rocket launchers armed and ready to fire trapped buildings, shafts, and many charges were found in there. Like everything in Gaza, Hamas managed to turn this place into an amusement park for terrorists. The fighters of the combat team conducted battles with the terrorists found inside the compound, eliminated them, and located and destroyed many shafts leading to terror tunnels. In the vicinity of the complex, there is a warehouse and a chemical laboratory that is used by Hamas for the production of weapons. The forces also found terrorists with severe body burns. After investigation, it appears as if a chemical explosive device the terrorist tried to throw at the troops exploded in his hands. In engineering operations and airstrikes, the forces of the brigade and the Air Force destroyed explosives, rigged buildings, observation posts, and underground shafts. During the operation, the fighters of the brigade located many weapons, sniper weapons, RPG launchers, AK-47s, pistols, and rifles in the village of Khalkhul in Judea and Samaria. This is the front against Palestinian terror elements in the heart of Israel. A reserve unit of the IDF, including the Shin Bet and the border police forces, confiscated equipment from a printing house that printed inflammatory materials for the terrorist organization Hamas, and coloring books for children with terrorists who kill Jewish children. In the city of Hebron, in Judea and Samaria, the forces arrested a wanted man and also confiscated explosive charges, Molotov cocktails, and a drone. In Israel's northern front against Hezbollah in Lebanon, an Air Force fighter jet attacked operational headquarters of the terrorist organization Hezbollah in the area of the village of Lida in southern Lebanon earlier today. Also, the IDF conducted several attacks in the areas of Lebanon from the morning hours with tank fire and artillery fire. In addition, a number of launches were detected earlier today from the territory of Lebanon towards the territory of the State of Israel, and the IDF responded by attacking the sources of the fire. I want to pray for the good souls, the heroes of the IDF that lost their lives in this war against Hamas terrorists, in this war in Lebanon against Hezbollah, in this war in the West Bank against Palestinian terrorists. All of these enemies have one thing in common. They all seek to annihilate Israel and the Jewish people. This is a spirit that comes from evil. This is a spiritual war. There is no other explanation for so many people to hate such a small nation such as Israel. So how do you fight a spiritual war? You fight it spiritually, by praying, by asking God to intervene. He's the only one that can help us. So please join us in prayer. Pray for the IDF soldiers. Pray for the families of the fallen soldiers. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
There's a little bit of the Holy Land our brothers and sisters in the Holy Land of Israel, that He keep them safe.
משברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל העומדים על משמר ארצנו וערי אלוקינו מגבול הלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים ומן הים הגדול עד לבוא הערבה ביבשה באוויר ובים הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל ייתן השם את אויבינו הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה נשלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון ויקוים בהם הכתוב כי השם אלוקיכם ההולך עמכם להילחם לכם עם אויביכם להושיע אתכם ונאמר אמן.
I want to thank you for being here today and being part of our program. We had not met last week, and God willing, we'll be meeting Sundays for the foreseeable future. There's just so much media falsehood out there, and these programs aim to give you chizuk, to give you encouragement and strength, not only for what you discuss with your neighbors and friends, but for yourselves. It always feels good to know not only that you're standing behind your people and the only country in the world that's comprised of your people, but it's good to know you're right. When everybody says you're wrong, it's so good to get together with other people who feel as you do, your gut that you know you're right. There was a very, very famous poem written at the beginning of the 20th century in Russia. I believe it was in Odessa. The name of the poem is City of Slaughter. And it was written by Chaim Nachman Bialik, the most famous Hebrew poet of his time, City of Slaughter. And the theme was the following. He called it Chatzi Nechama, the partial consolation. He said, you know, the whole world accuses us of killing Christian babies so that we can take their blood to make matzah for Passover. And they actually have pogroms here in Russia, and they murder Jews over this claim. He says there's a partial consolation in this terrible lie about the Jewish people. The whole world, he says, believes it. The whole world, so many in the world, believe it at that time. The Jews kill Christians to babies to take their blood to make matzah. And he says, we know it's not true. We don't think like maybe it's not true. We know it's not true. And he says, that's a partial consolation. When the whole world says something against us, and we just know it's not true, that's the assuredness that so many other things they say about us also are lies. And we can be sure they're not true. And that we carry a unique truth. And in this war, so many lies about the poor, innocent Gazans, forget about it. They are not innocent Gazan civilians at all. And that's what these programs show. And that Israel is being indiscriminate, it's a lie, and you've seen it. And when you hear about the anti-Israel demonstrations, it's just good for the soul to see that St. Charles County, Missouri restaurant and so many others, the North Carolina Attorney General, coming to stand together behind Israel. And we stand behind. And you know, we're a congregation that's of modest number, but several of you said, you know, Rabbi, you should post these on YouTube. And I have been posting them. And this message is getting out to hundreds more people than the original class. So we are getting our word out, and others do also. So spread the word and have a wonderful week. We'll see many of you on Tuesday night at the Navi class, which resumes. And we're bringing our Thursday class back to life as well. A Mishnah class where we will be learning Jewish law of war to pick some interesting Mishnahs from the Mishnah and from Rambam. So again, thanks a lot for being here and have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sure.
Thank you, Rabbi. Hashem should give you strength to continue.
Thank you.
Go Tuesday, God willing.
Thank you. Bye-bye.